Well, good evening, everyone. It's great to have you all join us, and we know that you're very busy, and we so appreciate your taking your time to connect with us this evening. I'm joined by Ms. Dawn Linden, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning, and also Ms. Robin Coker, who is the principal of what we're calling our Virtual Village, our 2 elementary virtual programs. And they'll be sharing as we work our way through this hour together. We are so excited about back to school 21-22. And just so that everybody is aware, we are looking forward to a full back to school opening and our first day of school on Monday, August 30th. So make a note, Monday, August 30th, we'll return to full operations 5 days per week in school, teaching and learning at all of our school buildings. Our quality Ann Arbor Public Schools teachers and staff, school leaders, our academic programs, visual and performing arts and science, curricular, co-curricular, extracurricular, athletics, and on down the list, early childhood through 12th grade. We've elected this evening to focus in because we hear often, particularly from parents of elementary students, with that question about the virtual opportunities for fall. And so we thought we'd spend a few minutes this evening giving you a little more information. Ms. Coker and her team have been working hard. Now, just as a reminder, at our elementary school, there will be 3 options at all of our elementary schools. That full in-school learning 5 days per week at every elementary school and at our K-8 buildings. And then 2 virtual options, one being that A2 live online, that idea of a teacher and a class connected virtually. And then thirdly, a program that we've had this past year, A2V Elementary, A2 Virtual Elementary, and that is the asynchronous, more independent. Student is working more independent with the support of AAPS teachers also. We are excited also at secondary in grades 6 through 12 to offer that full in-school learning 5 days a week. And then the virtual option is that A2 virtual option. So that's a quick overview of what we're planning. And Ms. Linden, Ms. Coker, we're excited to hear more about virtual. You know, I see stories in the news, and I know that some of our parents are really continuing to consider whether they want to be virtual or whether they want to be in person. So I appreciate you all being here this evening to help us a little bit to understand more of those virtual options. Thank you.
Great. I'm really excited to be here and talk more about the Virtual Village and the programs that we're offering. We're launching our Virtual Village because we've taken what we've learned this year in the two different options that we've offered virtually for elementary students, and we have put them together under an umbrella. And what we've done over this past year is we've learned a lot about what it means to provide a high quality instructional experience for children. And of course, we're always learning forward. So taking what we learned, responding to feedback, and really offering something that we think can meet the needs of K-5 students. So we know that families come to us for a variety of options. They might not feel comfortable. Some of you found that this was just a really great fit for your family. And this has been an opportunity for us to think a little bit differently about how we work with elementary children. So what I'm going to do over the next few slides is compare and contrast the 2 online options that are available for elementary students and just kind of provide an overview to those for you. So as Dr. Swift mentioned, we have 2 programs. We have A2 Virtual Elementary, sometimes we affectionately call it A2VE, and we have A2 Live Online. So last year, most of our students were in a program that looked similar to the live online experience that we'll be offering in the fall, where they joined their classmates and their teacher at a specific time each day, and had a day experience where the teacher was in front of the class doing that whole group instruction and then meeting with children, maybe in breakout rooms or small groups throughout their day. That would look similar, although this coming year, that will be a 5-day-a-week program. Or the A2 Virtual Elementary program, which is an asynchronous program. It is offered, in the difference in that program is that the core content, we're thinking about literacy, math, science, and social studies, that is offered at in a completely online platform where you and your children can access that at a time that works for your family. So it's a flexible schedule for the access. So, but both of these programs, as Dr. Swift mentioned, are led and supported by our highly qualified Ann Arbor Public Schools teachers. And in both programs, whether you're in the synchronous or asynchronous program, your child is assigned to a teacher in the same way that they would be in a traditional elementary building. So your third grader would have a third grade teacher that was connecting and working with them on literacy, math, science, and social studies, regardless of the program. The approach is just a little bit different, and we'll talk about that role. But an important part, and one of the reasons I think that we really want to make sure that we're underscoring this idea of village is that it is important, whether children are in synchronous or asynchronous programs, that they are connected, that they feel like they're part of a school community. And we're really striving to do that. And of course, the teacher is a key part of that. So in both of our programs, whether that's in the synchronous program every day, 5 days a week, or in our A2 Virtual Village, a couple of days a week, children will have morning meetings, which really build that classroom community and focus on those social, emotional, getting along skills, and that important part of our learning experience. So let me move to the next slide and thinking a little bit about the role of a teacher, because one of the questions that I have is that I field a lot, particularly about A2 Virtual, is what do the teachers do, or what does that look like? So in the A2 Live Online, live is in the title, and the teacher is in the room with your child at that scheduled time throughout the day, providing that whole group instruction. When we think about the whole group instruction piece, the children in A2 Virtual are accessing that independently, of course, with the help of a supportive adult, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And the teacher is looking at their online submissions, providing timely, high-quality feedback. And in both of our programs, one of the things that we do well in Ann Arbor is make sure that we're meeting the individual needs of students. So we're meeting with students in small groups. And our A2 Virtual teachers, while they're not doing that first direct instructional piece, they are meeting with children all day long. The difference is that they're setting those meeting times at a time that's mutually agreed upon so that it works for your family. And they are providing that small group and individual support. An important thing that they do also is make sure that they're maintaining regular communication with the family so that we're checking in about how the child's doing and we're helping them along the way. So I thought it was really important when we talked tonight to talk about the role of family. What we know is whether we're in person or wherever we're learning, that relationship between home and school is really essential, that we're working together to really make sure that your child has the best possible learning experience. And in our virtual program, that is even more important. We've had this shared experience this year where we have all worked with our children at home. And as a parent, I know that I've thought differently about my child's instruction and my role that I play as a parent. And so when our children are in school, we're working on getting them on the bus. We are making sure that we're helping them getting their backpack and their things ready. And that if it's a chilly day, that they've got their hat and their mittens. And we're meeting them after school and hearing about their day. We're reading their teachers' regular communications that they're sending to us. We are talking to the teacher, emailing and phone calling as we need. But we are not in the nitty gritty in the way that we are when our child is having their experience in our home. So in the A2 Virtual and the A2 Online program, that parent component, that family or trusted adult is really important to the success, because at school we help them through all of those transitions. We move from math, we might need to get out our whiteboard, or we go to specials, and the teacher is there supporting those transitions. At home, in the live online program, we need help setting alarms, making sure that children are available to jump into Zoom sessions, that they come back after lunch, those kinds of supports, that their space is organized so they can easily reach their whiteboard or whatever it is that they need. And in our asynchronous, our A2 virtual program, that adult support is crucial, because children do not have a teacher, not even in their shared virtual space with them at that moment, to access that curriculum and to do those assignments. So we need the help of an adult at home who's helping develop the schedule, who's making sure that their children are sticking to it, and that we're communicating with the teacher, so that if there's a problem, if there's a struggle, that they're letting us know, because we don't want children to struggle. The role of the teacher is to be sure that we're in helping them, and so they can jump into a Zoom or do some other teaching right on the spot. So I'm going to share with you, the next piece is the schedule, and hopefully, did it advance okay?
Yes.
All right. And this is a sample schedule for our A2 Live Online. And you'll see that it has the same kinds of blocks that you're used to having in your child's school day. There's a literacy block and a math block and science and social studies. But you'll also notice that we have some scheduled breaks that we've highlighted in there. When we met with Mrs. Linden, the team, and we talked about what it is we want to know, Mrs. Linden said, let's be sure that there's a time where we know that children can close the lid and be offline. And so the schedule was created with attention to providing children both online and offline experiences, where the teacher will be leading during the whole group literacy block, but children might take that offline and they're reading in their books and applying Post-it notes or doing other activities, math manipulatives, in times that are offline. And I also wanted to draw your attention to the intervention and enrichment block. That might be something that you're not familiar with. And that's a block of time where we say at that time, we're not doing new instruction during this time. We're going to make sure that children have opportunities to extend their learning if they have what they need, to maybe engage in some of those passion projects, but also to receive intervention services if they need reading support or some other type of support. So that's how that is built into the schedule. And then I'm going to share with you the A2 virtual schedule. Now, this really isn't much of a schedule as much as it is kind of a time frame, because you create the schedule with your child in our asynchronous program. We're less concerned about the when in A2 virtual and more concerned about the what. So the time blocks here are based on the idea that you would have school experiences over 5 days. But what we know is that for your family, if you need a lot of flexibility, you have a standing appointment on Thursdays, and you want to do more on the other days of the week and less on Thursday, that would be okay in the A2 virtual program. But the schedule is based on this idea of 5 days a week. And you'll see that the times in these blocks are really consistent with the A2 online schedule in terms of what we expect for children to engage with content. The one thing I noticed that I didn't reflect on this is that children will be also offered opportunities to have live specials in both programs. What we found is that those special area classes are most engaging when children are in that space with the teacher. And so the great thing that does for our A2 virtual asynchronous students is it provides them a daily opportunity to engage with their peers. So they have opportunities every day to engage with their peers through specials. They have opportunities a couple of days a week through their morning meetings with their teachers. And then we have special clubs and other opportunities so that kids have that virtual village wrapping their arms around them and giving them a chance to connect with their peers. And just as I mentioned in the other schedule, we have intervention and enrichment here, online and offline learning as well. And of course, the breaks are something that you can build right into the schedule. And you'll notice at the bottom of this schedule, we say about 15 to 30 minutes of live scheduled sessions with the teacher. That may not happen daily. Teachers will absolutely connect with your child at least once a week individually or in a small group, often much more frequently than that for reading and other small group work. And again, those times are scheduled at a time that's mutually convenient. So I've provided kind of a quick overview. I can advance to this last slide, which this is just our web address for you if you'd like to dig in and take a peek and see what we have there, our www.a2schools.org /A2 Village will take you right to our website. And we have a nice, much more in-depth side-by-side comparison so that if you're sure online is what you want to do, but you're not sure which program would be the best fit, that would be a really great resource. And then we have a page that is dedicated to each of the programs where you can really dig in and get more details about each of the programs.
Before we jump into the questions, and thank you to those out there for sending us questions. One of the questions I've been saving from a previous community engagement session, Ms. Lennon and Ms. Coker, is this question about if families are intending to return to in-person school, perhaps at some point after they're able to be vaccinated. I'm just sharing the question that was asked. How would they think about curricula alignment in making sure that their child is ready to smoothly cross that bridge? Now, we know that we'll be offering those transitions at natural points during the academic year, and we'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But what should parents be thinking about in terms of the curricula alignment across virtual to in-school learning?
I think Ms. Coker and I can both respond to that. When we think about a planned transition that's ahead for you and your family, the things we look for are obviously alignment with the curriculum, but also a schedule that is similar, a school day that is similar, so that students don't have an abrupt and sometimes difficult adaptation when they change over. And so when you look at the programs that Ms. Coker has just shared with you, it very obviously looks like A2 Live Online with synchronous instruction happening throughout the day, report times, moving through the content with direct instruction with the teacher every day, having specials live. That piece is the most similar. It is the same curriculum. It is obviously delivered online, so there will be differences in the delivery. But that would be my advice. Ms. Coker?
I agree with that completely, Mrs. Linden. That is fully using the Ann Arbor Public Schools curriculum. So I will say both of the curriculum for both programs is aligned to the state standards. But our asynchronous program, A2 Virtual, largely uses the Florida virtual curriculum. One of the reasons that we use that is because they're tried and true and have a lot of experience with online and asynchronous curriculum. And also another reason that we selected it is because it was the most closely aligned. So there aren't huge gaps, but the pacing, the timing across the school year might be different. And we do see a difference in science and social studies, especially. And then again, from just a transitional perspective, I agree with Mrs. Linden, there would be fewer transitions. It would be an easier move from the live program back into a school setting.
And while we're on that idea, throughout the year next year, regardless of the student and family choice of any of our three elementary programs, the access to our RecNed enrichment opportunities is available for every Ann Arbor Public Schools student and family. So I know that for some of our families who are choosing virtual, they also, just for socialization, want to have some RecNed opportunities, particularly outdoor activities. And we actually ran outdoor activities almost year round last year. Now, we really bundled up during the winter months, but we ran those activities just to provide that extra socialization. Do you plan, and I know it's early, Principal Coker, so I don't mean to put you on the spot. I know your team is working hard, but I have had the question, do you all plan for school events or connections beyond the school day like other school campuses? I mean, you're the principal of the virtual village, and I imagine you're going to do some activities, yes?
Yes, and we certainly did some last year. So last year I was the principal at A2 Virtual Elementary, and we had some family programs in the same way you would in a typical school setting, and we hope to continue to build on those. So a couple of things we offered. We also learned to offer them both synchronously and asynchronously. So we would offer opportunities for families to join us, but often we have a piece that we would put out for our families who wanted to be part of that, but couldn't join at that exact time. So we offered some Winter Wonderland activities and slides and a great cookbook that we sent home over our winter break. We had a virtual heritage festival that our teachers organized and led this year. I'm sure we have also, I mentioned them just a little, but we also have club opportunities for students where they can join. And those are things that are high interest and opportunities for them to engage with peers with similar interests. Those are less family and more about students and their teacher led. But we certainly have begun with that work, and we'll continue to extend that because we really do want, I think that community connection and feeling like I belong to something is really an important part of what we do. And so we'll continue to do the work that we've started and expand on that. And of course, we welcome the ideas of our families and our students. The other one neat thing I want to say, I wish I were wearing it to show it off. We also had a t-shirt design contest, and we have a wonderful school logo if you're on our website. And that little robot guy that showed up in my presentation, that was designed by one of our students, one of our Ann Arbor Public School students. And so we are continuously looking for those opportunities for our families.
That's wonderful. You were kind of reading my mind because I was thinking about the school mascot, and those kinds of things. So you've really come online with this idea of creating a learning community, whether folks choose that A2VE or whether they choose that A2 Live online. We work to get to our community questions by about 25 after. So Mr. Cluley, I think we're just right on the nose here. Ms. Linden, Ms. Coker, was there anything we missed in kind of giving the overview, or shall we jump into the questions? All right.
Let's jump in.
Good.
All right. I think I'm going to jump to, it wasn't the very first one that came in, but it ties in really well to the conversation that we just had about the efforts to keep those virtual kids connected, even while they're staying virtual. On the flip side, are there going to be opportunities for elementary students who have chosen the virtual option, not just to stay connected with the virtual kids, but to stay connected to their home school building, assuming that, at some point, maybe this year or at the end of the year, they will be returning to a particular school? What sort of opportunities are we going to have kids getting to interact with their home schools?
Thank you so much for that question. And we are working on how to ensure that there is a network there, that students can connect at their local their neighborhood elementary school. So I'm not going to venture out to give a list of those ways, but I have made a note, and we absolutely will flesh that out. Now, I bet Principal Coker, Ms. Linden, you already have some thinking on that. So please jump in here if you'd like.
I may, Ms. Coker, just say a few things, and I know you have more as well. The way that the A2 Virtual Village enrollment works is that students are still assigned in Power School to their home school or their neighborhood school or the school they've been district transferred into or have arrived at through schools of choice. And so typically the communication about events happening at the school, those things happen through a school messenger system directly to all of the students enrolled in those schools. So in this way, families will stay connected communication-wise to their home schools. However, we do worry that there will be communication coming about things going on in the school, like an assembly, and we worry that it will be confusing for families who are enrolled in the virtual program. So we're just going to have to work with families to keep the communication straight between the virtual village and the communication they're still receiving from their home schools. Ms. Coker?
Okay.
Yeah. If I could add, I will say that, work with the other elementary principals, and they're very invested in staying connected and making sure that your child is welcome and still feels a part of that community, whether or not they're taking their classes in the virtual village or taking them in the school building. And so certainly when they have activities and events that happen, those outside of school activities, and more we're offering those in virtual formats, right? That your child would certainly be welcomed by the principals to attend those outside of school activities that are part of their family. They are really very gracious and invested in staying connected.
That's wonderful news. Thank you.
We got a multi-parter here, and I think I'm going to divide it up a little bit. But how are the IEP supports going to work for elementary school students choosing synchronous virtual option for the fall? Will they have the same IEP case manager and team going to the same as it was for this school year that just ended?
Boy, that is an excellent question, and I think these are the answers that we have a difficult time being specific about, because it really depends on the needs of the students enrolling in the program. It's possible that the program will have its own staff to support students with services and special needs. And so there is a possibility there will be a different IEP team serving students. But as Ms. Coker has shared, the goal is to stay deeply connected throughout with the homeschool. And so that doesn't mean that there won't be contact, conversation, and connection throughout. And so I think the answer is it could be either, and we'll work with families. If a family is anticipating a return to the homeschool at some point in the school year, it does not make sense for families to have a different team supporting students. So we would want to maintain that continuity for the families with their homeschool.
And you actually just touched on the second part of the question is, what if a student switches from virtual to in-person at some point during the school year? Would the IEP team change? So what you're saying is that this is another instance where if a family is thinking right now, I want to start virtual, I'm expecting that my child will get the vaccine at some point, and at that point, I'll probably at the next transition point go into my back to in-person school. It's a good thing to let us know right now what you're thinking, and then that can help us in the planning.
Correct.
So, but I do want to jump in there, guys. What is clear is that students will be served according to their IEPs. And as is always the case with IEPs, we build those out for the unique needs of that particular student. So I know that there are some services that are more natural to virtual delivery, and some of our parents have really felt it important that their student remain virtual. So I know that we've learned over this past year how to deliver almost every service that we can virtually. So what is wonderful is that I believe now going into 21-22, we have more choices, and we've learned a lot in the process. Would you agree, guys? And I'm not pressuring you to agree, but yeah, but we know more how to go about it, right?
We sure do. I think that's an excellent point, Dr. Swift. Thank you for that.
Okay, our next question. If an elementary school student signs up for a virtual option now, when is the earliest they can switch to in-person or vice versa? For instance, if I said right now I want to do in-person, but come August, I'm feeling a little bit leery about, the numbers or something. Could they, even before the start of the school year, change their mind and flip the other way?
We really appreciate that question. And I know there's just a lot of uncertainty coming into this summer for many of our students and families. I watch those news stories every day, as many of our parents and staff do. And you do have questions. So what we've asked is that our parents go into InfoSnap and give us their best thinking right now so that we can prepare and staff up and be ready. At any time during this summer, we would appreciate hearing from parents who are thinking there might be a change. So really the most natural place for that to go is to the building principal in the neighborhood school or to Principal Coker, just because it's not very easy to get back into InfoSnap to make that adjustment there. So just reach out to your principal. And of course, our folks are going to take their much deserved breaks. So, but just getting that word over to us will help us to go ahead and make the preparation for that transition. But we understand there will be some need for flexibility. If we are in a position late in the summer where we don't have the staff in place, if there are a lot of changes there at that time, we may have to ask people to hold on and let us get our changes made. But we're hoping that if folks can kind of get settled by that July, mid-July timeline, that we'll be able to make our appropriate adjustments. Is that, Ms. Linden, Ms. Coker, you're the ones actually doing this work. So I want you to weigh in if I've overstated or understated our ability. We want to work with families, but just our ability to flex, particularly if we have large numbers who are making a shift.
I think that's accurate, Dr. Swift. I like that you've emphasized that families may be uncertain at this time, and we know that. And so we do, however, really appreciate the information so that we can plan. And so earlier, even when Mr. Cluley recapped that if you plan to make a switch, during the school year, it's lovely to know that up front.
Yes. I've had parents reach out to me, guys, about the child's birthday, because they're planning for the vaccine. Of course, this is more around sixth graders, but they're planning for the vaccine and they know when that birthday is coming. And it is good to have that idea, because I know Ms. Coker and Ms. Linden will go ahead and kind of get things organized so that we're ready to make the transition. Yeah.
And a big part of what we've learned to do, I think, really well over the past year is to work collaboratively as a team of colleagues, of principals, to make plans to support families as their needs and their comfort level adjusts and shift. And we'll continue with that work.
That's great, because I know so many of our parents are watching the vaccination news every day and trying to sort out their best next steps. So thank you.
Our next question is really getting down to the nitty gritty. What is the process for switching from A2 online to in-person or vice versa going to really look like? What will happen, sort of like, what are the steps and what will it feel like for the student?
Very good. And when you're answering that, Ms. Coker, Ms. Linden, would you kind of touch on, I, as superintendent, refer all the time to the natural transition points in the year. And I use words like crossing that bridge, but I don't give the important details because that's your work. When are those kind of transitions so that folks could kind of think about how that looks?
The natural transition points would be as we end the trimester. We do in the virtual village, we'll work on that same schedule as our elementary buildings. So those are times where we are wrapping up the units and getting ready to move into new work. So those are really good transition points. And our first trimester ends, Mrs. Linden, in December about?
I believe those report cards typically go home around Thanksgiving.
Okay, right. So late November, early December. But as far as what the process looks like, the first thing really to do is to communicate with me or the building principal. We're in touch with each other all the time to say, this is what we're thinking. We're feeling ready to make the transition back. Or my child is at the building and I'm going to contact the principal and say, we thought we were okay, but I'm feeling uncomfortable. And we work together and communicate with the teacher, both the sending teacher and the receiving teacher. The difference this year that I know that Dr. Swift has highlighted in other community presentations is that our live online program is a district program, which means that returning to the building, and this has always been the case with A2B, returning to the building means that you will most likely have a different teacher, right? So, so the teacher, both the sending and the receiving teacher, having conversations with them so that they can be talking with each other and passing the baton and important information so that we can create the best transition for continuity for your child's instructional experience. So that's what it looks like, is really us just all communicating and collaborating to build a plan that makes sense for each individual who might make that shift.
So that trimester is about 12 weeks. So we're just thinking roughly in our mind, September, October, November. And so parents then would consider whether they're ready to kind of cross that bridge at that Thanksgiving time when the units are all wrapping up. So they would then probably have those conversations with you, Ms. Coker, a few weeks ahead of that time so that everybody, just like moving schools from one school to another. And I was a kid whose family moved a lot, so I understand this, that idea of just getting ready for the move and then getting the records and the transition going between the teachers. That's just the natural thing that we know how to do in this district, right? Good. Very good.
One question that I have, how much the same is A2 Live Online going to be from the experience that students had while they were in the virtual world of this most previously just wrapped up school year? And what tweaks have we made that are going to make it a little bit different?
I think Ms. Coker and I can tag team this question, Andrew. It's a really good one. Some key areas where they are the same. The bookends of the school day are very similar. The use of the Schoology platform, which students are very familiar with, and all of the tools and resources that exist there, Edpuzzle and Pear Deck and the fun things that they use to engage will be a part of that. So it will be very familiar to students in that way. All the visuals and the ways that teachers engage with students online will be very familiar. So Robin, what more would you add?
Yeah, what we know is we learned a lot, and so we're going to build on that practice. But I think a big difference is that rather than it being 4 days and having an asynchronous Wednesday, it will be 5 days a week. And then in addition, last year we were starting with so much of this work, and so now we have we have a really great base of work that we can continue to build on and refine, right? The second time we do anything, we'll do it better than the first time. Yeah. And so we'll continue. So we'll take what we learned and keep those good pieces and then build on that strong foundation that was laid over the past year.
So just like before, will they come by a drive-through and get the supplies and the device? And I mean, all of that will be done kind of like we did last year, that there'll be pickup times when the family would come and pick that up. Yeah.
Yes. And what we do is we try to create a couple of different opportunities to meet different family schedules. We know that can be a challenge, but we'll work and be as flexible as we can be and provide those opportunities so that families have what they need to support their child.
That's great. And also we'll do food distribution. So I just want to make sure that all of our families are aware that that food distribution continues through the end of June of 2022. So we will be publishing those locations and times, and it doesn't need to be at lunchtime because we know that the students participating virtually, you don't want to interrupt your day. So they do food distributions at other times as well. So we'll be sharing that information. So it sounds like, Ms. Coker, Ms. Linden, that an A2 virtual village child will really have all the opportunities of our in-school children. They'll just have that customized to a delivery that doesn't require the in-person learning. Does that sound right? and perhaps even a school T-shirt. I think we all really need one of those, Ms. Coker, because that's part of it.
We will make those available too. Yeah. And I think that you're right, Dr. Swift. Thanks. Our goal is to make sure that children have a rich, engaging experience through our online programs. And that's part of why we have the 2 different programmatic options, so that we can really meet the needs and be responsive to our community.
What's exciting to me is that it's quality Ann Arbor Public Schools teachers. I've been very concerned during the pandemic to see just kind of cyber corporate style K-12 offerings, and I'm not being critical of any particular program, just generally, to me, it is just much more reassuring to have your Ann Arbor Public Schools district, your quality teachers and curricula and support personnel, our special education services. And tell me, I just want to know a little bit more about specials, because if I get a few minutes sometime, Ms. Coker, I'm going to jump into the elementary specials because they sound really fun. So is it a schedule like it would be at regular in school, that you get a certain special each day, or as a child, do I get to pick my favorite special, or how do you go about sorting all of that out?
Well, we will have scheduled specials that will be similar to the experience that children have those are specials in the online programs will mirror those that children have in the buildings.
Oh,
one of the pieces that we heard back from our A2 virtual families last year was that they were sad that there was no music. So we're going to make those parallel to the building programs with music, PE, art, and library. And those will be scheduled. And depending, we're trying to make it all work. But one of my sincere hopes, and one of the things that I'm going to work to do, is to make it so that when we have that special time, that we can have children from both programs join those together. So
I love that.
Another way to expand our community and get to meet children from both programs. So
I love that. I'm so glad you're getting the music in, because, I've seen our choirs perform this year, and our bands and orchestra, and this synchronous work on music and the arts has just been extraordinary. So I'm so delighted that our elementary students, and maybe that'll be the first special I try to get my way into, Mr. Cluley's music. So
I'm going to stay out of it, because even elementary music school level classes is beyond my musical ability. So I'm going to stay out of it. We do have another question. I heard there is no deadline for the decision-making between in-person and online schools, but can you please let us know when should we decide over the summer?
We have InfoSnap open now, and it will be extraordinarily helpful to the district and to our planning. When parents are comfortable, we'd like you to go in and make that selection that gets you registered. It gets you your seat reserved in the program. So that will be very helpful. Certainly, it would be important to have that done by mid-July, because we are staffing our programs every day. And I know, Ms. Coker, you're building those grade level classes just like you do in-person school. You're figuring out the balance of boys and girls and how you balance your classes out, both in the in-person school and the A2 live and A2 virtual. So we are asking that parents help us out and go ahead and make a selection. But we are understanding that there is uncertainty, particularly for younger children. It would be helpful for folks to go ahead and make their selection, so then we can plan and we can make an adjustment if that is needed. Also, when you're in InfoSnap, and we don't have Ms. Baccalor here tonight, our health person, but a friendly reminder that those vaccines that many of our families, because we've been away in virtual school, they're just a reminder to get back in and see about those vaccines and all of the paperwork that needs to be delivered. Now, people often ask me, Ms. Coker, this is just the best question, is like, where is the virtual school? And I always joke around with the answer and say it's virtual. But people do want to kind of know, and we've talked about it a lot in the district, like, you really are in a virtual office, and yet you found touchless and paperless ways to do all of the enrollment and birth certificates and all of those. How do you go about, where are you, Principal Coker? That's what people want to know.
That's a great question. I actually have not been asked that before. So we work, as Mrs. Linden had explained previously, that you still are connected to your neighborhood or your local school. So we work with the local school offices to get paperwork that needs to be turned in. So if it's something that you need to turn in person, that way it's convenient, it's close for you. We work together on that. But we also, over the past year, got pretty good at accepting some documents that you can scan and send to either the school office or to our office professional at A2 Virtual. And again, we'll work together to make sure that we process whatever paperwork we get. But we really are, so the best contact place for you to drop something would be at your neighborhood school if you're looking to drop off paperwork or something of that nature, but we are truly virtual.
That's wonderful to know. And thank you. Now I'll have a better answer when people ask me that question. But that's really nice because they don't have to go across town. If they're attending their neighborhood school, they can just drop it right there locally. And then those folks transition the paperwork with you. Very good. Good. Mr. Cluey, Ms. Linden, Principal Coker, what have we left out that maybe our folks are curious about? We are so grateful that folks take time to join us for these community sessions. We know our crowd has been small this evening, but just a reminder, this session will be posted on our website. Mr. Cluey will go over where it ends up so that it's available to view on demand for any time that folks are ready to learn more about the A2 Virtual Village and our virtual offerings for the fall of 21 and 22. Ms. Linden, Ms. Coker, what else might we add?
It's a great question. And I think at this point, Dr. Swift, we'd really love to invite folks to the website to check it out. We've got some pretty amazing things there. And
are you going to show us?
Yeah,
good.
We can definitely do that. And we can also pop that link right now in the chat to our panelists and our attendees alike.
Oh, that's great.
And encourage them to enroll there. So Ms. Coker, would you like to share your screen and just show the landing page and where to go?
Sure, because I did that so eloquently earlier in this presentation.
That's all good.
This is our landing page. And if you scroll down, we have these 3 buttons that you can hit to start right in them. The Welcome to A2V2, as I mentioned, that we have a nice comparison side by side, that's where it would take us. And then each of those other buttons can explore the program. So I will just click here and give you a quick tour. And this highlights and really compares our programs at a glance. So it gives you more, a deeper level of information for those of you that would really like to explore and understand and consider each of the programs, how those are alike and how they're different on our landing page here. And you could get in from one of those first buttons, or down here at the bottom, you'll see if you're weighing out your options, which one is best for your family, you can click and explore in either program. Since we're at the website and we have this moment, I'd love to show you one other tool that we have here.
Sure.
Which is that on our page for each program, our dashboards look very similar. but there's this one with a house that says this one is why A2 online. The other one says why A2 virtual. And this gives you some reasons that this might be a good match for your family. But I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and you'll see there's this tool, and it's this Readiness Survey to really ask whether or not an online program would be helpful for your child or would be a good match for your child and family. And there aren't any right or wrong answers, but it's just a tool to help you weigh it out and consider. And it speaks to the differences in the program as you complete the survey, and just gives you some additional information and gives you some food for thought as you consider the options.
I really appreciate you showing that. I had heard from Ms. Linden that you guys had a great new website, and I'm embarrassed that I had not yet seen it. So thank you for sharing that with us. It's great. You guys did a great job on that. And I love that you've listed kind of the most common reasons that you're hearing from families that they are more comfortable with that virtual offering. That's just really great for our families to understand that whatever their circumstance, they're not alone, and that in the Ann Arbor Public Schools, we're creating learning communities and connection for our students and families, regardless of where they are on the spectrum and their level of readiness to return full-time to in-person schools. So that is exciting.
Thank you.
Very
Is there
good.
anything specific, Ms. Linden, that I should have highlighted that I may not have on our website?
No, I think you did a beautiful job. I put the link in the chat, and I think I just want our community to feel the support from this team, from Ms. Coker and Ms. Liz Lucier, who is her right hand in the program, and the amazing team of teachers there. It is an exceptional program. It is unlike anything you will find in any other district, including the private companies that offer online education out there. And so I just encourage folks to check out the website, really see the incredible support that students have, the incredible design of the program, the way that students come in and are a part of a virtual community, which oftentimes is missing in other programs. So thank you so much for joining us. Thanks for this opportunity, Dr. Swift, to be here with Ms. Coker to share this.
And
That's great.
We'll be sure to get this video posted not only on that page, but also on the fall learning community sessions page where the other sessions have been. And I'm hoping that Ms. Coker will give us the presentation so we can get that posted on that site as well, so that families have multiple ways that they can find more information about the A2 virtual programs.
That's great. You know, as we've done since the beginning of this pandemic, and we certainly understand it's been quite a challenging year for everyone, most especially our parents and students and staff. And yet this continues our desire to ensure that our families have choices, and choices that fit the unique needs of their students and of their families. So, Mr. Cluley, do you have directions as we wrap this up? I know did you just give everything?
I think I just gave everything out. We don't have any other questions. So I just thank everyone for tuning in tonight.
Very good.
Sorry, my internet cut out twice. Sorry about that.
No,
I wasn't leaving on you all.
It was a quick return. Yes. Thank you so much, guys. Take care. Have a good evening. Bye-bye now.